Hi, this is Ng4, and we are going to cover the World Rapid and Blitz Championship. Today, the World Rapid Championship started. This is a very controversial tournament held in Saudi Arabia, and while it's very strong with some of the best players in the world, there are also some absentees like Nakamura, Caruana, and so. But still, we have Carlsen, Maxi Graf, we have Aronian, Nepomniachtchi, Grishuk, Karyakin, Anand, just to name a few. But a very controversial tournament because players from Israel, Qatar, and some nations didn't get their visas and couldn't play in the tournament. So all in all, very controversial, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the games. The tournament is being held, and we do have the best player in the world, Magnus Carlsen, and in the first round he played against Xiangzhi Bu from China. So Carlsen with white, and famously Xiangzhi Bu knocked Carlsen out of the World Cup. So a very interesting pairing in the first round. Carlsen with white pieces, he opened with c4, the English opening. We have knight f6, e5, and e3. Now, for those familiar with the Sicilian defense, you'll quickly realize that after a6 and d5, we actually have a Sicilian defense with colors reversed. If we flip the board, this is just like the Sicilian. But white has an extra tempo, but it's not so easy to use. Queen c2, and this is just like the Taimanov variation. Xiangzhi Bu plays bishop b7, so this is just like the quiet bishop e2 line, which white can play. And play continues with sort of normal moves. Castles b4, Bu took on c3, and Carlsen took with the pawn. Queen d6 from Xiangzhi, and now bishop d3, probing the h7 pawn. But f5 crossing the diagonal and threatening e4, so white has to break with e4 himself. And now f4, gaining some space on the king side, and this prepares perhaps a future attack with g5, g4, etc. Carlsen plays h3, doesn't want bishop g4 in his house. a5, bishop b2, and bishop to f6. Carlsen plays rook d1, so he's threatening to win the queen with bishop c4. So Bu moves the queen. Carlsen finally castles. Bishop e6, and now queen to e2. Bishop c4 is now a strategical threat, trying to exchange this important light squared bishop. So that explains queen f7, which blunts that idea. Now rook d2 by Carlsen, trying to take control of the d file. g5. Carlsen pushes b5 on the queen side, and c4. This looks kind of equal, but I think most people would prefer to be on the side that is attacking, so I think most people would prefer black here. Knight h2 opens up for the queen and prevents g4, which was probably a threat. Rook d8, Carlsen doubles on d file, but it's not at all clear what's going to happen there. Queen to e7, c5 looks like a pretty decent square. Queen h5, still a typical Carlsen game, you know, strategical battle where the position is most likely equal. Rook d7 by Bu, preparing to counter on the d file, knight g4, and rook f to d8. Bu doesn't mind if Carlsen takes his bishop, as it's currently sitting rather passively behind his own pawns. So Carlsen doesn't do that. He plays knight to h6 check, and now the knight draw king h8. And this really just helps black because it vacates the g8 square in the future if black wants to attack on the g file. Knight f5, and now the queen comes to c5, which looks like a safe square for the queen. And now Carlsen sort of realizes that he's not getting anywhere really on the queen side, on the king side, and actually his pawn here is under threat, so he retreats to e2 to cover the pawn. But now knight to h4, and black gets rid of this annoying knight, and at the same time opens the g file. So I think we can say that black is already for choice. It's not at all clear what white is going to do on the queen side, and meanwhile black can attack on the king side. Carlsen's queen goes back to h5, but rook g8 is played, and it's not clear what the queen is doing. Bishop to f1, offering the trade, but Bu denies. He simply doubles on the g file. Bishop takes h3 is now a threat, so king h1. Queen goes back to e7. And now the question is if white can take on e5. Carlsen didn't do that, but let's have a look what happens if he tries. Bishop takes e5. In this case, white will have to defend, and at the time they were both getting down on the clock, and I'm pretty sure that Carlsen didn't want to defend and miss something. Let's say black can play something like f3, and he will get a great initiative, a good attack. Let's say bishop takes f6, then I take on g2, bishop takes, queen takes f6. Okay, I'm down a pawn, but you know my queen has the f4 square. I have the g file, active bishop. It's clear that white will have to defend here. Also, you can try g3, but then takes. You can take with the pawn or the bishop. If bishop takes, even sacking the exchange here seems to give black tremendous play. And Carlsen didn't want to defend, so instead of taking, he retreated. Maybe should have gone for this objectively, but he retreated, and now things start to turn for the worse. We see rook g5, an excellent move. As you will see, after a4 there's bishop f7, and now you understand rook g5. It's protecting the h5 square, so now bishop h5 is a threat. And once the bishop arrives there, there's a big time skewer on this diagonal. Carlsen played rook d7, but queen e6, and now the threat of bishop h5 is back on the cards. And probably rook d7 only helps black, because now the queen, well, actually it doesn't change. The queen has access to b6, but before it had access to c5, and we'll see that this diagonal can be important, so maybe it doesn't change much. Here Carlsen played queen e2. He must play either queen c3 or queen a3, and both of those squares make the move c5 available for black with covered by the queen, and we'll see why that is important. Instead of this, Carlsen played queen e2, and now bishop h5 arrived. Carlsen must play f3, but now everything is super active for black. Rook g3, and now there are threats like bishop takes f3. Let's say, for instance, a move like rook takes c7, which makes no sense, and there's bishop takes f3, and you can't take back with the pawn because of rook takes h3, bishop takes h3, queen takes. You can only interpose and then I take on f3, and you made the next move. So bishop takes f3 is a big time threat, and something must be done about it, but the only way to do anything is king h2, which Carlsen played, but this allows queen b6, and now you see why queen a3 or queen c3 was good. In that case, c5 could have been played, blunting this diagonal. But now there's another big time threat, and to demonstrate it, let's again play a nothing move like bishop c3. In this case, black would take on h3, rook takes a3, wonderful move. And let's make it the variation color, of course. And if g takes h3, there's queen g1 mate. And if king takes, there's again queen g1, and this threat is just something you can't deal with. White can only sacrifice some pieces for some spite checks, but he will get mated. There's also queen h1, of course. So facing these threats, Carlsen was way down on the clock. He couldn't find anything. He played c5. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Here, yeah, he played c5, and Bu, of course, took it, and the clock was ticking, and Carlsen couldn't find anything because there isn't anything, and he lost on time and played king h1 as his flag fell. But as his flag fell, the move doesn't really count, but he played king h1. But that move, of course, loses instantly to rook takes h3, which is just checkmate in 2 moves. So another loss to Bu, and not a good start for Carlsen, but we do have 15 rounds, and if I recall correctly, last year he didn't start too well, but he was in contention till the end. So we'll see what happens this time. Will Carlsen recover? Stay tuned.